Well, Ford Truck Mania, a game released in year 2003 for the PlayStation. Really late in the PlayStation's life cycle by Alpine Studios and Gotham Games, The PS2 was already out, and this off-road racing game aimed to deliver big thrills with various Ford trucks on challenging terrains. And the question is, did this specialized race manage to navigate the rough roads to success, or did it get stuck in the mud of negativity? We're gonna kick up some dirt with Ford Truck Mania. The premise of Ford Truck Mania is as straightforward and rugged as its vehicles. It's all about off-road racing with Ford trucks, eschewing any intricate narrative or character development. The game puts players directly behind the wheel of various Ford truck models. The objective is simple: compete across different circuits and challenging natural environments, proving the might and maneuverability of these heavy-duty vehicles. Players choose from different vehicle classes, amateur, semi-pro, and pro and professional, and are tasked with winning races to unlock more trucks and tougher courses. It's a game designed squarely for truck enthusiasts and casual racing fans who enjoy the idea of tearing through mud and dirt rather than pristine asphalt in your favorite Ford truck. Ford Truck Mania delivers an arcade-style off-road racing experience. Players can dive into a career path, single races, time trials, and even limited track editor. The core progression involves advancing through the amateur, semi-pro, professional circuits, which gradually unlock more powerful Ford trucks and challenging tracks. The driving mechanics are designed for accessibility, allowing trucks to bounce, slide, and drift with relative ease across varied surfaces, like mud, dirt, and snow. Players have a selection of 8 standard Ford trucks and 4 modified versions, ranging from Rangers to large F-Series models. While there are options to customize aspects like steering, transmissions, and tires and suspension and more, the actual impact on handling often feels minimal, making Matrix feel somewhat similar in their general responsiveness and wishy-washy physics as well. This lack of distinct vehicle feel can detract from the excitement of unlocking new rides. The track design focuses on off-road environments like a muddy mountain path, rough road desert terrains, and snowy trails. These tracks are generally linear with wide turns, plenty of opportunities for power slides. However, they can quickly become repetitive with similar visual assets and challenges recycled across multiple courses. The AI opponents are competent enough to offer a race, but are largely predictable, often sticking to their lines and sometimes even suffering from odd pathing behaviors, which can make races feel less competitive or dynamic. A unique feature for a PS1 racer of its time is the inclusion of a track editor, and this is actually pretty cool for its time because, PS1 didn't really have anything like this in a racing game, and while it's a cool concept, its implementation is quite basic. Tracks often consist of flat ground with occasional small jumps, limiting the creative potential significantly. This feature feels more like a novelty than a tool for generally exciting new course creation. The game generally maintains a consistent frame rate on the PlayStation, which is positive for the hardware, but it struggles to convey a sense of strong speed, and even the faster trucks, which hinders the overall exhilaration of racing. And we're starting with some similarities from the original Ford racing here, people. Gee, I wonder what this means. As an off-road racing game, probably focused on showcasing Ford trucks, Ford Truck Mania has no discernible story or character development. The narrative is entirely absent, and the characters are solely the various Ford vehicles themselves. This stripped-down approach means there's no overarching plot, emotional investment, or quirky personalities to encounter. For players seeking a pure driving experience, this might not be an issue, but for those who appreciate narrative context in the games, the experience can feel sterile and lacking in deep purpose. Once again, just like in Ford racing. Are you thinking what I'm thinking here, people? Ford Truck Mania's visuals are characteristic of a late-era PlayStation 1 game, particularly one released after the PS2 was already popular. And that is the question: why was this game not released on the PlayStation 2? Instead, we get a game released on the PS1 in 2003. Dear Lord, I know sport games were going to be released on the last-gen consoles, but a game like this? Come on. While vehicle models are recognizable and was detailed for the console, showcasing the ruggedness of the Ford trucks, the environments are often bland and repetitive. Textures can be low resolution and detailed, like mud and dust effects, while present don't fully convey a convincing off-road experience. Also, noticeable pop-up of distant objects is common, and overall graphical fidelity is functional rather than impressive, reflecting the console's age and the game's budget. And that's what I'm getting at here, people. This game does not feel like a sequel to Ford Racing. This feels like an expansion, with Ford trucks instead. Even though it's developed by a different company per se, it feels the same, just trucks on off-roading. If you were getting that's what I was gonna say, then congratulations. You know what I was talking about the whole time, but we gotta continue. The sound design is similarly uninspired. Engine sounds are generic and lack the distinct roars and grunts you expect from powerful trucks. And once again, this adds the word expansion to the game. Tire squeals, collision effects, and environmental sounds are present, but unremarkable. Once again, the soundtrack features a mix of generic rock and electronic tracks that serve as background noise, but once again are largely forgettable and do little to enhance the excitement of the races. Once again, no voice acting, further contributing to the game's utilitarian presentation. And this is is what I mean here. This is the main issue with Ford Truck Mania. Ford Racing was not that great of a game, but at least it had originality and they tried to make a game. Here they just made a game like Ford Racing, but with trucks in it. It should have been called Ford Racing Trucks or Ford Racing 2.0, featuring Ford trucks. Now, what do I give this game score-wise? We'll be able to go to our TTBurger positives and negatives, starting now. For the TTBurger positives, the game focuses on Ford trucks, catered specifically to fans of Ford automotive lineup, particularly the trucks. Accessible arcade handling, which is easy to pick up and play, with forgiving off-road driving mechanics. Variety of Ford truck models, offers a decent selection of vehicles from different classes. The basic track editor, which is a unique ambient limited feature for creating custom circuits. Generally stable frame rate, maintains consistent performance on the PlayStation hardware, and simple split-screen multiplayer provides basic local competitive fun. For the TTBurger negatives, lack of depth in gameplay, where trucks often feel too similar, and the physics are wishy-washy. Repetitive track design, environments and challenges quickly become monotonous. Underwhelming sense of speed, with races often lacking exhilaration expected from a racing game. Basic AI opponents that are too predictable and sometimes prone to odd behaviors. Uninspired visuals, bland environments and also pop up in dated graphics for its release that year. Generic sound design, which is unremarkable engine sounds and a forgettable soundtrack. Absent narrative with no story or character development leading to a sterile experience. Late PS1 release that felt dated upon arrival, especially compared to contemporary PS2 titles. And I should also mention that this doesn't feel like an actual sequel, it feels like an expansion with Ford trucks. So in conclusion, Ford Truck Mania on the PS1 is a straightforward, budget-oriented off-road racer, probably aimed at the very specific audience dedicated to fans of the Ford trucks. It delivers on its promise of putting players behind the wheel of various Ford models across dirt and mud tracks and snow tracks, offering accessible arcade handling and a clear progression path to unlock more content. The inclusion of a basic track editor is noticeable, if underdeveloped, feature for the console. However, the game's later arrival on the PlayStation, coupled with its overall lack of ambition and depth, holds it back significantly, with wishy-washy physics, repetitive track design, and absence of a compelling sense of speed make the races feel less engaging than they should. Visually and audibly, it's a functional but uninspired title, ultimately feeling dated even at its launch. While it might offer a brief nostalgic diversion for hardcore Ford enthusiasts or those curious about obscure PS1 racers for most players, Ford Truck Mania is a forgettable detour rather than a thrilling destination in the world of racing games. So what score do we give Ford Truck Mania? Well, with Ford Truck Mania feeling like an expansion and nothing else, I can only give this game once again a 5 out of 10. Don't look like you're playing the same game just with Ford trucks instead. Is there any chance of this series getting better or worse? Well, next up we're going to dive into the PS2 era and look at Ford Racing 2. How will this fare compared to the other two duds we had that hit the curb and get stuck there? Find out next, everybody. Take care. Peace out.